Okay, you perverts, you filthy, people, degenerates. Alright, so it's your boy Hentai Guy here, back at it again with another video, but today I'm doing a video that I'm gonna have to give props to Eyelash Jack. Go check him out. Like, he did two of these videos, and I actually loved it. Like, it got me hooked. It got me wanting to do a video, so I'm finna do a video. Congratulations. Um, so like that. But anyway, today's video is going to be, what if Deku and Toga were bound by fate? Now, I did a poll, and you guys wanted it to be sexual, so it's going to be sexual. Congratulations. The majority of you perverts won. But yeah. And I also took into consideration if Deku should have a quirk, and he will. He most definitely will. But the question is, should I give him one for all? I asked you guys this due to the fact, if I give him one for all, his quirk, it'll only... You know what? No, I'm not giving him one for all. I know exactly who I'll give it to. Haha. So, Deku's quirk is actually going to be pretty, like, terrifying. And this, it can be literally created. It can be already existing. It can be someone else's. It does not matter. And his quirk has to match Toga's. Like, if they're going to be bound by fate, there has to be a reason they're bound by fate. Like, they're in love with each other. Well, Toga's technically obsessed with Deku, and Deku could be, either way. But he's still that shy person, and Toga loves him for it. But, like, we start this story off at Deku's birth. Now, let's say Deku wasn't one of the kids. He wasn't one of those, children who were unlucky enough to, spoiler alert, if you haven't read the manga, don't keep listening, like, skip a little bit. He wasn't one of the kids who was unlucky enough to get his quirk stolen. Like babies to get his quirk stolen. So in this story, Deku was actually born with a very powerful quirk. Like, it's technically stronger than All Might's. There's a lot of quirks on there that's not stronger than All Might's. Actually, none are stronger than All Might's besides All for One. But this is. But in the room next to where Deku was born, there's also a little girl being born. And this little girl looks as though she has blonde fuzz on her hair. This, as you all know, is Toga. So they were born on the same day, the same hour, of the same time. The same year, all of it. They're the same age now. Okay? Everywhere Deku was, Toga was too. And I'll explain this. It's not like they actually knew about each other. But I'm going to say it like this. See, Deku always wondered what his quirk would be. And the doctor said it wasn't the one doctor who was stealing the quirks for All for One. It was another doctor. The doctor said that he'll have a quirk. It's going to lie dormant for a while. But it needs motivation to wake up, And Deku was just thinking, motivation? Well, what type of motivation are you talking about, Doc? And Inko asked the exact same thing. Now, on this exact day, in like another ward, like hospital ward, Toga was getting her quirk checked out too. And the doctor said that her quirk was, blood copy. That if she ingests blood from someone, she can copy their appearance. And maybe there's more to that quirk. You just never know. So, like, yeah. And Deku hears this. He goes to school. Now, Toga, sorry for saying now so much, Toga actually goes to the same school Deku does. She just always sees him in the background and doesn't say anything. For some reason, she sparks his interest a little bit. He's the shy, quiet type, Like, he was just naturally this shy, quiet type. So Deku, you know, Kachan begins to try to bully Deku, but Deku says that no, Kachan, I'm not quirkless. I will have a quirk. It's just I'm a late bloomer. My quirk will come in one day. It just needs motivation. And Kachan then says, well, what other motivation do you need besides to get stronger? So, yeah. Now, we get to the beginning of the anime. And this is going to be a little dark. So, Toga has always seen Deku in the background. She knows more about Deku than Deku does. And she's actually like a yandere for him. She's crazy. She just thinks about him 24/7. Like, I wonder what that green haired boy is doing. You know? Just the thought of his luscious green hair just makes her start getting wet. We all know this, okay? Sorry, I didn't want to say it like that. But yeah. So we get to the beginning of the anime, and instead of Deku being bullied and stuff, he's like, I wouldn't say he's bullied per se. He's more of, just not thought about. There's only one person in the class that thinks about Deku, and that's Toga. Now, Deku has experienced weird things growing up. He's experienced every time he got upset, his blood would just start swishing around in his body to the point where it'd become heated. Deku would become heated. Deku would start having a temperature so hot to the point where it's like, I don't even know how to say it. It's like Deku's temperature would become so hot to the point where he would start actually literally steaming. And then Bakugo would say something like, haha, look at Steam Boy, his quirk might activate. But nothing happened. Nothing ever happened. Because Deku always calmed down. There was always one girl just saying, hey, knock it off. She always just seemed to be there when Deku needed her. And Deku just... Sorry, I had to pause it, So, Deku just, he's noticed Toga. Like, Toga goes unnoticed from everyone else, but he notices her. He sparked up a couple conversations, but, like, they're not intimate yet. So, I'll say that when Toga's parents found out her, quirk, they immediately disowned her. They kicked her out, and Toga's actually living on her own. She works at a job and all. She's just providing for herself. So, nobody knows this, not at school. Deku has seen her go to work, he just doesn't know that she's got kicked out for having her quirk like that. So, the beginning of this is actually going to be a little different. Deku begins to walk home, Well, no, I need to actually go to the beginning. My fault. So, it all goes the same technically, without the fact that Bakugo tells Deku, Baku doesn't even acknowledge Deku. He doesn't acknowledge his existence. Just the thought of him having a quirk one day, it's like, well, maybe, just maybe, he could, become some sort of somebody's support hero if his quirk is good enough. And Bakugo just thinks that, and his friends just laugh, and then they all just walk out. Deku stays for a little, and then he notices that Toga's already gone. So he begins to walk home. He doesn't take the short way or the long way. He doesn't want to go home at that moment. He just has like an urge. And he goes to this new cafe that he's been hearing about. It's supposed to be a hero cosplay cafe, where you cosplay as your favorite heroes and all. And Deku goes there. He has like a couple, maybe He has like a couple thousand yen on him, He's not rich, but he he's stable. So he goes there and he walks in, and the first person he sees is little Miss Toga. Look at her adorableness. He sees Toga just working, working hard actually, and he starts to blush as if his whole world stopped at that moment. He takes out his phone and takes a picture, but then Toga immediately looks up and then starts blushing and drops her tray and tries to cover herself with it. Well, she drops the food on the tray and tries to cover herself with the tray. So Deku just begins to blush even harder, and Toga blushes even harder. But the man whose food she dropped gets upset, and he starts trying to go off on her. Now Deku sees this, and he starts to get very, very angry, and his steam is doing more than boil. Like, it's doing more than just steam than it always does. It's actually getting to that point. Deku is awakening his quirk. The man starts to feel like tightness around his throat, but then immediately Deku just snaps out of his rage. Deku's like, "Oh, what just happened?" So he orders. He sits down, orders. Everything goes good. He then walks out. He then walks out to go home. Now Toga, she clocks out. She takes off her uniform, changes her clothes, and then begins to walk home. But she walks home in the opposite direction as Deku. Well, technically the same direction, but it's like she walks through the alley. So, in the alley behind her job, the man whose food she dropped gets, ambushes her. He says, you should repay me for that food. I may have gotten a refund, but I never heard you apologize. He says this as he grabs her hair and holds her, up to the wall. Now, I will say that no, not Deku. This man had like a super strength quirk, like a muscle enhancement quirk. And Toga can't escape. So he slowly begins to take his finger and undo the buttons of her school uniform. And then he says, "What's a pretty little schoolgirl like you working here for?" He then rips her skirt and then eyes her like an animal about to devour a meal, like a lion about to devour a buffalo. Like, if you saw it, you'd be sick. Now, Deku stayed for a little bit to ask her if she wanted to go walk with him. And he walked in the store. He walked back into the store to ask the manager where she was. And he said, well, she went out back. She goes out back to walk. So Deku walks around the corner of the building just in time to see the man getting ready to force himself on her. This enrages Deku. Like, he's pissed. He sees the tears down her eyes, the hits, the bruises, all of it. The bruises from her parents when she tries to go back. He sees the cuts that was just on her, that was just given to her. He sees all of it. The black eye, the bloody nose. It's like it's a whole different person. How can one man do that to her face in the short time that, Deku's disgusted? He thinks that this man, this guy, is scum. He doesn't even view him as human anymore. So, with that, his quirk awakens. Deku begins to leak blood from his nose. And it's not a lot of it's not a lot of blood, but it's like one drop is all that's needed. And Deku doesn't even know what he does. How he feels right at that moment. How he channeled this energy, this power. All he knows is that he did it. This one drop of blood transformed and solidified into a staff. He immediately ran over and cracked the guy in the kneecap, breaking his kneecap immediately. Like, if you're running all the way from a football field, just to stub your toe on a titanium bedpost, that's how it felt. And his knee is broke. Like, there's nothing he can do. Now, Deku's eyes are bloodshot. Toga notices this. And she cries even harder because she thought she was the only one with a quirk like this. But she also thought that, this was going to be her last day alive. And Deku, he's disgusted at this man. So he breaks the other leg. Then, he created the staff with his right hand. And with his left hand, he started to repair the man's legs. And with the staff in his left hand, when the leg is completely repaired, he breaks them again. And he repeats this process over and over and over till the man can't even stomach the pain anymore. His eyes are just red. And if you know the ability that I'm giving Deku, then I'll just tell those who don't. I'm giving Deku the ability to control blood. This ability is called blood manipulation. Basically, what he can do is he can create creatures out of blood, create weapons out of blood, manipulate blood to the atomic level. He can increase the amount of blood, minimize the amount of blood, all of it. Sorry if you guys can hear the crying and the screaming upstairs. Yeah. So, yeah. It's crazy. So, just then, the manager steps out, getting ready to go home, and he sees what happened. And he immediately calls a pro hero. And you won't believe who shows up. It's All Might. Now, All Might sees what this kid Deku did. He sees the blood staff in his hand. One second, I'm sorry, guys. You know what? I don't even care. He sees the blood staff in his hand, and he asks, "Kid, did you do this? This is sick, kid. Like, how could you do this?" And just then, Toga up out of nowhere and says, "Sick. He just saved me." She says she's crying and bloodied and tattered and all this. Her view, I don't know how to say this. She has a certain form of Stockholm syndrome, but it's not towards the kidnapper or the rapist. No, it's towards the hero. She's like Peach when it comes to Mario, except she ain't baking him no cake. She already got the cake made. So she's not going to let anyone else. You know what? Let me just do this. I'm gonna show you. All Might asks, "What happened? Did he do this to you too?" And Toga explains the process. All Might tries to go in for a hug, but she immediately jumps back. Deku notices this, and then he rushes over. And then all of a sudden, she jumps to him. Deku asks, are you okay?" And Toga says, "Yeah," with that shy little bitty cute voice. And, everything is just, in that moment, it's just, like their worlds have collided. Like they've finally found a piece of themselves that they have been missing. It's what you call love at first sight, except this ain't that first sight. So All Might offers to take Deku and Toga to the hospital, but just then Toga immediately says, "No, I'll just go with him." Deku blushes by this, and Toga, you know, begins to blush as well a little bit through the disaster that is her, that happened to her face. And Deku just, he can't stomach it. He likes her. He's just not realizing he's always liked her. Maybe it was from the distance, but he was fascinated by this girl. And he wants to see her smile. So, with his newfound power, he begins to heal the wounds on her face. Coagulating the blood, clotting up everything. It's just, he does all this. And it's like none of this has ever happened. The bruises on her body aren't even there anymore. She's completely healed. She blushes thinking he saw my body. She doesn't care that he saw the bruises that her parents left on her. She doesn't care. Deku sure doesn't care. So, with that, the two of them are like, they hand in hand. And then All Might just ups out of nowhere and asks, "Hey kid, what's your quirk? You seem actually very, very powerful. And you did not even hesitate to take on this guy. So what's your quirk if you knew you were so confident?" And that's when Deku realizes, holy shit, my quirk awakened. So yeah, Deku was just thinking, oh wow, I have a quirk now. I have a quirk now. And it was like Deku immediately said, I have to go. And All Might says, why? Deku says, because before this I was quirkless. Well, they didn't know what my quirk was. And All Might just immediately thinks, wow, this kid, did he just really? He just jumped in without even knowing what his quirk was. He just saved this girl without knowing what her quirk was. And this kid's pretty badass. So he immediately thinks this kid will make an actual amazing successor. If his ability is this strong the first time he uses it, what about when he's trained it? And, this is what's going through All Might's head. But Deku's, gone. He's gone. He's already at the hospital. All Might follows, and secretly so does Toga. And Deku gets checked out, and it says his mom immediately rushes to the hospital, says, "What's wrong with my Izuku?" And because it was proven that Deku would have a quirk, his mom stayed, skinny. So yeah, technically in her prime. Oh, and then Deku has this funny ability. He has this funny ability that he's going to use. That's going to make everyone jealous. I'm gonna show you. So Deku, it said, Deku, you hold a very powerful quirk. It's called blood manipulation. It basically gives you total control over blood. You can speed up the healing process. You can slow it down. You can create blood clots. I mean, the possibilities are endless as long as you have an imagination. Even with the slightest drop of blood, you can create something as big as the Empire State Building. Except, and your own blood, that's even more powerful. And Deku's just, shocked. Now, there are drawbacks to this, though. One of the Sorry, guys. But one of the drawbacks is that, he exhausts stamina. But he can, replenish his stamina if he uses it on himself. If he uses his own blood, it's easier to control. So, yeah. So like, yeah, All Might then takes Deku in a separate room and asks him, um, Izuku, how would you feel about becoming my successor? And Deku thinks about this and he immediately says yes. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to do it like this. Deku takes it. Because All Might explained how it works and all. Deku takes it, ingests it, because, he was already strong. He trained. He used to train. I'm just going to say that now. He trained, and All Might has caught glimpses of Deku during his hero work because he's gone to the beach and went to the beach too. So has Toga, just in the distance, behind all the trash. So Deku is like, yeah, why not? So he lets it settle. He cleans up the trash. And then during the 6 months, he says, so All Might, how much do you think I can handle right now? All Might says, well, with your quirk, you could possibly handle 100%. Because, he doesn't technically need to strengthen. He doesn't need to strengthen up. He can just strengthen himself with his blood. He says, okay, if I can handle 100%, would the effects still, last? All Might says, well, of course. And he says, okay, perfect. I want to give this quirk to someone else. Someone who needs it way more than I. Because during those, ever since that day, Deku has, he's been talking to Toga. He's learned stuff about Toga. He learned her situation, all of it. She now stays at his house. And All Might says, okay, young Midoriya, so who do you have in mind? You remember the girl I saved that night? All Might says, yeah. Well, he doesn't say yeah. He says, yes, young Midoriya. Deku then retorts, well, I want to give it to her. Her quirk is actually pretty nifty, but I feel like there's a lot more hidden. And All Might says, well, what do you mean? And he explains the process of her quirk, and he explains what he feels like her quirk can do, because if it just awakened. And Deku just then instantly begins to say, look, I know what you're going to say. And just then immediately, motherfucking All Might says, well, I think it's an amazing idea. You should totally do it. You have my full support. And Deku just immediately, Deku says, what? So, Deku gets home that day and he tells Toga, what's happening, what he wants to do. And Toga just up out of nowhere just starts to blush, cry, and then jumps and kisses Deku. And Deku's flustered. He doesn't know what to do. Deku goes to sleep that night after the whole process is, done. He goes to sleep that night. And Toga sneaks in. She gets atop of Deku. And then she starts to confess to him. She says how much she loves him, how much she's been observing him, how much she's needed him since day one. All of it. And Deku has just, he's just listening, hearing it all. And with him hearing it, he, he understands and he admits, I've always loved you as well. And Toga slowly drops the towel that's around her to reveal a very voluptuous body and nothing but lingerie. Now, Inko is 100% asleep. And they got neighbors, but Toga works, so they were able to move to a more quieter house. Well, to a house, to the suburbs, technically. And, yeah. Deku then begins to, he grabs her waist, and she starts to blush. She climbs on top of Deku, and there's kids around me, so right now I can't even say it. They just get it on, and that's all you guys need to know. Like, they decided to just give it to each other right then and there. They did not care. But that is going to be all for today. I might do the second part of this, just like immediately after this. I don't know. But just tell me if you guys like this idea, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Be pervy.